Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. Today you join me on a misty, murky November morning and I'm back on the banks of the River Thames. I'm really excited because it's only about my third or fourth time fishing this massive river, and I really owe my early adventures that I've had on the Thames so far this year to a local angler and a friend of mine and a good friend of the Magic of Fishing channel, Neil Waite. He's something of a River Thames expert. He's fished the river most of his life and even wrote a book on river carping. Some of you will be familiar with his name and his face from the channel, but he's brought me to a really special looking club stretch of the river, and we're going to have a bit of a match, only a friendly match, well, semi-friendly. Bit of a north v south, bit of a specie fisherman versus match fisherman approach. Neil's caught some massive fish from this stretch and indeed from many other stretches of the river. Just this season he's had some clonking fish, £6 plus chub, £16 plus barbel, which he tells me isn't even in his top 5 fish of all time. So he is a real specie angler, but he likes all kinds of fishing, and that's what I love about him really. He's got fantastic infectious enthusiasm for this sport we all love, and he's happy catching small stuff as well as the biggies. But he's going to try and fish feeder today, maybe with pellet, whereas I'm going to go more down a natural route, casters and hemp and tears, bit of corn as well, and I'm probably going to try him out fish him on the float. The river is in good nick. We've had so much rain in October, but it's finally settling down, and some of you will have seen I was lucky enough to have a couple of weeks away in the hot sunshine of Africa, if you've seen that video on the channel. So I'm still getting used to this chilly daytime temperatures, but it does look spot on. It's going through nice and smooth. Neil says it's come down even since midweek, so let's get fishing. And I have brought the seat box, the full match gear with me today. Yeah, I thought with competition in the air I'd bring the full Monty, and it was brilliant actually. We got to use Neil's what he calls his electric Zimmer frame, but it's a brilliant piece of kit if your mobility's not spot on, or you're coming a long way with some heavy gear. He does fish a lot of overnighters, bivvied up. Used to do a bit of carping, and now he's into his overnight fishing on the rivers for barbel and chub and, well, anything really of a decent size. And yeah, he's got an electric powered tackle cart, which served us both really well after we met up earlier this morning and put all our gear in his van. So we had a bit of fun this morning unloading that and transporting it to the river, but it's still only mid-morning, maybe early morning. I haven't checked for a while. Got my 14-foot Acolyte rod. I've got quite a heavy 3 or 4 gram Avon style wire stem float pattern. I've had a plumb up and it's a good 9 or 10 foot, just a rod length or 2 out on the crease with the main current. So I'm hoping to fish float. I've got the feeder gear with me if we need to try across the far bank, where I'm told that's where the big chub like to hang out, but I'm not going for big fish today so much as numbers of fish. There's supposed to be some lovely roach in here, dace, perch, so let's give it a go. Actually, thinking about it, I better check how we're starting this, what time we're starting this, and just see if Neil's ready to go yet. Let's go and have a word with him. He's already fishing. I didn't hear the all in.
Well, you're too busy talking on your phone. You're the match angler. I'm the supposed specimen man, so I might have to pull a few strokes just to stay with you in this conditions.
Yeah, classic, eh? Specie hunters. They don't even know the rules, let alone abide by the rules. Cannot wait to have my first chuck. Let's just try double caster to begin. As much as I would have loved to be running a stick float through today, no doubt be possible with 10 foot of water and some autumn flow through the river. I have gone for this heavier Avon pattern float, still a top and bottom float of course, but it's a bit more of a buoyant tip, so I might be able to drag bottom a bit if I need to. And that 3 gram Olivet is only a foot or two away from the hook length. That's a bite first chuck. I wish Neil was a bit closer so I could rub it in his face. What have we got? Oh wow, a little chublet. That was a lovely first fish from this stretch of the Thames. I'm obviously hungry. Let's get the feed going in. So there's no need for fancy shotting patterns today. A couple of number 8 droppers down to a quick change swivel below that Olivet bulk. I just need to keep it this side of the crease because there's some real boils where the main flow meets this slack, inside slack. And I'm using a 14-foot rod because quite high up off the water here. There's no chance of wading, not with 10 foot below the rod tip. So that extra length in the rod helps keep a bit of control on the way down. Sometimes you need to keep the line off the water. And that's dragging, just working out the depth still. We are near a railway bridge, so forgive the occasional roar of trains going past. Another little knock there, but might need to take a bit of depth off. Also a rowing club just downstream, and a little bit of boat traffic so far, but nothing compared to what you see on the Thames in the summer, and it's really nice to fish the river at this time of year. It's been scoured out by the heavy rains we had. Not too much weed or debris. Quieter from a traffic point of view. Boat traffic. Just take a bit of depth off. That's a second fish. I just shouted out to Neil that I'd had a little chublet first chuck, and he said he'd had a roach, so he's off the mark as well. First Thames roach from this stretch. Lovely. I can actually see where Neil's chucking his feeder, and he's fishing almost directly in front of him. He's chucking upstream and letting it come down, settle in front of him. Little does he know that is bang on my float line, so every time I put a bit of hempen caster in, with this depth of water, some of that is going to get washed down past his feeder, so he's very lucky today. He's going to be benefiting from my expert feeding. God, it's just brilliant to be watching a float go down the river again though. My favourite kind of fishing. Probably on this inside line, on the crease with the slack and the main current, I probably could get away with a stick. But I think with this depth we've got, it does call for a bulk shot approach, or an Olivet in my case approach. This time of year the fish aren't going to be high up in the water. They're not naturally coming up high in the water anyway, so more chance of catching the better stamp fish down near the deck. And in 10 foot of water you need to get the bait down quickly, or you're going to waste half your trot just waiting for it to settle. I imagine it'd be a fantastic stretch to fish with waggler as well, a bit further out, or bollow. That's just running down to the overhanging snag, and there was a bite, only a small one, but it's 3 fish, only a small one this, but Neil said it's these kind of roach that are making the pike and the perch in this stretch really fat. The Thames is very much its own river. The longest in the country, of course, over 180 miles of it, and Neil's quipped a few times before that even if you fished it every day for your adult life, you could never fish every spot. So it's a magnificent river in its own right, and I'm looking forward to getting to know it better now I have discovered the fishing on here. But one of the reasons I do love fishing a big river like this is it does take me back to the Trent, the original big river that I grew up fishing. Not all the time, living in Sheffield it was still an hour's drive, but my granddad would take me there a few times each summer as a young lad, and then once he joined me up to Dronfield Woodhouse Sports and Social Club, we had 3 or 4 matches on there by coach every summer, different stretches. If you've read my book, you'll know how special it is to me, that river. And yeah, this is very different to the Trent. We're in a beautiful part of the country, stunning scenery even at this time of the year. Now we're well into autumn. It was a bite, caster's gone, been shelled. Lovely drive here from home. It's about an hour. It's not on the doorstep, but close enough. And as much as we'll be taking the piss at times today, I must say a big thank you to Neil for signing me up as a member to this club that he's belonged to for a while. That was an instant bite. Now, having the channel has given me the incentive to try different places, different styles of fishing, and sometimes different species even, but you know, being given access to somewhere, it's only a small club, being given access to somewhere brand new, especially at this time of the year when sometimes river fishing can come into its own, as long as you've not got too much water going in. It's very much appreciated. And there's another plenty of fish. That's what I like to see in a match situation. That's a slightly better roach. Nice fish. It's quite a drop down to the net, but I prefer that and have plenty of net in the water for the fish. Just hold it back, feed her, and then let it run down together. I tend to stop using hemp in the coldest months, January, February, but still has big pulling power in autumn. He's only a babby, but that's the first dace. We've had chub, dace and roach in the first 15 minutes. Definitely a bit of variable flow here. Sometimes the float's going through nice and slow, then it speeds up for a bit, then it'll almost stop at times. It almost takes me back to fishing the the bridge pole, where no one trot down was the same, or not when the tide was changing anyway. I wonder how Neil's getting on. That's got to be about 9 or 10th fish.
Well, there's a little roach, not quite the size we are hoping for, but I'll take them because I can hear John striking upstream, so he's obviously catching fish, and I'm going to need to keep catching just to stay with him. I started off on my normal banded pellet because I've caught a lot of roach down here this year, last year, and some really nice quality fish up to £1 14 ounces. But this morning, and the weather's got a bit colder, and I don't think the pellet's right. So I'm on my third, I think, different type of hook link this morning, from banded pellets down to I was fishing with a size 10 and 3 maggots on it, but I don't think the bigger fish are in front of me at the moment, so I've gone down to a size 16 and a 3.5 pound bottom. I've dropped the size of my feeder, and I've also had to put a 10 gram stick on weight just to give these little feeders a bit more weight to hold out there. It's only a little gentle underarm chuck just off the end of these bushes, and I've changed over to the dead maggot, so we'll see what happens. I expect to catch some smaller roach on that rather than the bigger fish I was catching earlier in the year, and actually a week or so ago. But it's got a little bit colder, so I don't think the pellet approach is going to work, so I've had to change to dead maggots. I've got some worm and I've got some corn, so we will find something that they're happy to feed on. I can hear John in the swim above me, and that sounded like another big handful of hemp going in, so he's obviously feeding quite heavily. So hopefully that'll come and settle in front of my swim, and I might get some big fish turn up on it, but we'll wait and see. A bit later on, when the boats and that slow down, if it's still quiet on the inside line, I'll go to the middle of the river and fish the middle of the river, and we'll see what happens there. There's a few boats, big boats out on the river today, mainly because the levels are down now, and I think people got stuck in different areas and had to leave their boats moored up when the lock keepers put the red boards up on the locks, so they couldn't go through. They have to moor up until the river calms down a bit. And here we've got one of the bigger boats on the move. You wouldn't miss this one, would you? That's a bit different.
No doubt Neil would know what the hell it is, but I've been fishing some big rivers like the Trent most of my life, and I don't think I've ever seen a boat like this before. That is nuts. So nuts I missed a bite. What the hell is that? Oh, and this is the best fish yet. Just about a net of that. Well, whatever it was, it brought me a bit of luck, but I don't know whether it was some kind of rescue boat or commercial boat. Look at that, that's a nice Thames roach.
Really not quite sure what sort of boat that was. Yeah, both my maggots are stretched, so there's obviously a lot of small fish, possibly little roach and bleak down there, but they're not quite the target, so we may have to come off these dead red maggots and change to perhaps a piece of corn, or maybe even a worm to see what happens. There's some very big perch along this bit here, lots of rumours of 4 pound plus fish, but there's big fish of all sorts in this piece of the Thames. It's my my favourite piece of the river. Some very, very big barbel here. The odge, and there are some huge chub. I mean, possibly British record size. Pike, which we might have a little go for later on if we get pestered by them, and roach. What we're doing is we're fishing slightly upstream, letting the feeder hit the bottom. There's a slight boa line, feeding a slight boa line into the out of the rod tip and up to the feeder itself, so that it holds bottom. And basically the bites we're looking for are the rod tip to bounce and then come back straight like a drop back bite, and that means the fish has moved the feeder and taken the tension out of the line. This was my daft idea, this sort of match we're having, that either north v south, with John obviously coming from Sheffield and me coming from Woking, or John being a very good match angler, as to me being more specimen orientated. And I've been telling him all summer I've been catching loads of big roach on pellet, but we've got to November before we've actually done this, so I think my advantage of fishing the pellet has gone with the colder water, but we'll see. Fishing the float will be a much better presentation today in the way of catching fish. I don't think we're going to come across the bigger roach, but the small fish are feeding, and I think John's I think I've got 3 or 4 and John had 10, so a bit like the trip with Andy and John over to the Warren, I'm getting battered by the northerners again, which isn't good news.
Keep that feed going in. With a bit of luck, I'll be pulling fish from right down the stretch. Take a few off Neil. Knowing him, he'll have worked that out and probably trying for a better fish. And that's the beauty of match fishing versus specie fishing, I guess, is us match anglers, we enjoy catching fish of all sizes, try and catch as many as we can, use any tactics necessary to get the most out of the peg, but quite often you will be catching the smaller stamp fish, certainly until you can feed through the smaller ones. Whereas canny old specimen hunters like Neil, who know every inch of the river and all the different conditions, all the different spots, he's putting hours and hours and hours of dedication into catching the kind of very rare, or as far as I'm concerned, rare fish that he catches. And so he could quite easily wipe out all of my bits. That's another better dace. Nice to see. You know, with a decent perch or a chub. And I'm not saying I can't catch the odd good fish. You've shared a few of them with me on the channel this year, but he's in a different league when it comes to knowing how to tempt the really experienced fish, the ones that have been caught a few times and generally know how to avoid us anglers. This is slightly better. Barely a landing net job, but I think that's another little chub. It is. And he could not resist a bit of corn. Neil said corn's a great bait for the roach here, and I've just been getting a run of them, and now a little chublet's come along. And there's another. They're not tiddlers either, good 2 or 3 ounce, and okay, that's a tiddler to Neil perhaps, and anyone else watching who likes the big fish, but they're not microscopic. And that's another on the corn. Pays to have local advice when you've never fished a spot before. Do you know what? That is another chublet, just about swingable. It's my third, a hat trick of little chub. Nice little run this. Back on caster, that one. But they're nice plump roach. Cracking fish, really shouldn't have swung that. Netter next time. Just seen Neil chuck his feeder out towards the middle. He may just be giving it a go, but he may also be working out that all my loose feed coming in above his peg is going to make that inside line tricky for him. There's another, and they're not bad fish at all. It's even better, just didn't need the landing net for that. Happy catching roach like that in a match. Yeah, Neil's definitely getting a bit of feed, starting a new line down the middle of the river. Hello. First ones I've seen. You can have a tiny bit of corn then. There you go. I'll assume that means thank you in Swan. Rachel, my lovely wife, has been baking again as soon as she heard I was going out with a friend. Believe you me, I don't normally get cake when I'm going fishing, but she heard Neil had done me a big favour of getting me in this club and bringing me along to a new stretch of the Thames, and a slice of her cake seemed like a nice way to say thanks. So yeah, at some point I'll go down there and see how he's doing and have a chat. Tap his brain on fishing the Thames, which I've been doing quite a lot of this year, and he's always willing to offer advice. Much like Mucker, another friend of the channel, has his own brilliant YouTube channel that I'll put a link in the description to. But I've had plenty of advice off Mucker as well, both in terms of watching his brilliant videos about where you can fish for free on the Thames, around Surrey and the outskirts of London. A real expert again, he's been fishing it all his life. Had some really big fish out, and yeah, between Mucker and Neil, I've had my own Thames hotline for the handful of times I have managed to fish it so far, in terms of where to fish, where to park, what baits to try. Both very generous blokes, and I love that in fishing, to be honest. I'm not one of these secret squirrels who likes to find a few fish for myself and not tell anyone about it. I do understand anglers that have put in a lot of time and effort to locate fish, that they don't want it to become crowded. And of course on small waterways that can't take a lot of angling pressure, it's completely different. But on a big river like the Thames or the Trent, the Severn, another river I've never fished, the fish can take a bit of activity, and I don't mind certainly sharing where I'm having some luck. And neither do top blokes like Neil and Mucker. In fact, it's the fascinating thing and really enjoyable thing about running this channel is the fact that there's obviously a few locals around the Woking and Surrey area that have cottoned onto it and enjoy a watch. There are those who have perhaps realised I'm originally from Sheffield, and I'd like to think a few Yorkshire folk and fellow northerners enjoying the vids. And I know there's a fair few have tuned in since I've done some nice videos on the Trent from the Midlands. Not managed to get up to Scotland or over to Ireland yet, or indeed across to Wales, but there's hopefully many more videos left in me. Unfortunately, with my family life and a normally very busy job in communications, I work with the media relations for big companies. You know, my fishing time is still usually limited to Sundays when I don't have my lad with me. He's got a job in a farm shop, or in summer of course the evenings. But yeah, I try a few different waters for you and bring you some different stuff, but clearly I can only at this time of the year get to certain waters within a certain distance from home. But wherever you're watching this from, it's great to have your company, and the views that I get, the interest in the videos and the comments I receive, that's the fuel of this channel, as you know, and really appreciate all the support as always. There's another one right down the end of the swim. Talking of short days and long nights, we're now well into mid-November as I film this. I have been thinking about, not stressing about, maybe that's a bit strong, but I've been thinking about how the hell do I keep doing one video a week, which is what I've been doing while I've been growing the channel, and managing to get out on a few days off over the summer, or evenings of course, which are always an option on those beautiful long days of summer. You know, I've got a few in the bag, got three or four maybe up my sleeve from over the summer that I've filmed. You know, I've made hay while the sun shone, and was aware that in the winter months, and in another month's time, when it gets a lot colder, the rivers can be out of sorts for a long time, long periods. If we get more rain like we did in October, it becomes really hard to produce something every week. Sometimes just difficult or impossible to get fishing. There's another one. You know, a really busy job, as I say. Several teenagers, and of course my darling wife Rachel, as another train comes by. So yeah, I've been thinking, is it realistic to be doing a video every week? And I'm not sure it is, to be honest. I'd rather put something out that's going to be enjoyable every other week perhaps, but we'll see what's possible. And I obviously want to provide as much entertainment as I can, and I certainly want to go fishing as often as I can. But you're not always going to catch lots of fish once those temperatures really start dropping. So there may be odd weeks where unfortunately Friday is a blank as far as the magic of fishing is concerned anyway. I'm well aware there's a lot more options out there for getting your fishing fix. There's some brilliant YouTubers around. But yeah, I'll try and keep them as regular as I can, and you know my normal release day is Friday midday. But if you do come across the odd blank, my apologies in advance. Not a big fish, but you cannot beat that feeling of a stick float or an avon like this. Well down the swim, dips, you hit it and you get that little clunk, fish on. Happy days.
It's been tough going today for me. Normally I'd expect to catch a lot more on the feeder than I have done, but we've had a couple of colder nights and it may well have affected certainly the pellet fishing, so we'll see. While we're doing that, I got some cake being delivered from Rachel, so thank you very much, Rachel. We'll have a go at this now. And I hope loads of you have entered John's little competition for some of Rachel's cake. So here we go, field testing it. Oh, a ginger cake, it's lovely. Thank you very much, Rachel, very much appreciated.
I wonder if Neil's had his cake yet. And talking of cake, I'm trying to think, by the time this video is edited and on YouTube, I would have thought I'll have drawn the winners for the cake and book prize draw, the celebration of 20,000 subscribers, and a little thank you for all the support you give me and all the very, very kind comments, which are always enjoyable to read. Love reading them every weekend. So yeah, I would imagine there's been a video on YouTube announcing the winners of that draw, so if you haven't seen that yet and you did enter, make sure you have a look on the channel and check it out, see if you're one of the winners. That is another species, a little silver bream, look at that, beautiful. A netter anyway.
Yeah.
And Neil tells me in the summer these are average fish.
Yeah.
Well, I've now been joined by Thames King himself. It's been a great day and I hope it's going to make a good video, even though you've struggled a bit today, haven't you?
I have found it really hard today. It's I think, as I've said in my bits and pieces that we've done, that I normally fish a pellet for the roach, and it just hasn't been right today. Not the right thing.
Sudden drop in temperature last night. I clocked that on the news and thought, oh.
Well, you did text me saying that it was going to drop, didn't you? But
yeah, that can really knock the roach sport on the head. But they've been pretty obliging on the float, and they've obviously wanted the loose feed and the
static bait just wasn't the way, was it?
Yeah, and that's the great thing about fishing with a mate. You get to try different things and.
No, it's not. Because your mate makes me look like a right Charlie today.
But how did you start off fishing? What was it?
I think like all of us, my dad.
Yeah?
Yeah. we used to go out occasionally. I mean, Dad wasn't a great angler, but we'd go and sit down by the Riverway at Burtham or somewhere like that. And I really got the bug. You know, I wasn't allowed to go fishing on my own when we lived in St John's until I could learn to swim.
This is all Surrey, right?
Yeah, this is St John's in Surrey.
Yeah.
Not a million miles from where you are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was learned to swim, I could then go fishing on my own. And that was me off down the Basingstoke Canal, which was wasn't 5 minutes walk, it was 2 minutes on my push bike. And yeah, that was it. Yeah, way back in the dark ages in 1975, I discovered carp fishing. And
so that was early days of carp.
It was
relatively early.
Relatively early, yeah. I mean, I was fortunate that I caught my first ever double figure carp out of Britain's Pond in Guildford.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Never got round to fishing it.
And I used to cycle from Knapp Hill to there with all my gear on my back for the weekend, and on a specially built rack on the back of my bike for that my dad built. And from there, I joined the club that you're still a member of now, Woking.
Wow.
And I fished cobbits originally.
Yeah, that's where I had my biggest carp from, as a 20-something northerner, fresh down south.
Well, at the age of I was 16 because I was in my last year at school, and it was the last day of the summer holidays. And my dad used to work in Old Woking, and he dropped me off in the morning on his way to work. And I was sitting on Sanderson's, sorry, using the highly technical bait of luncheon meat, free lined.
Yeah.
And I cast it out, and I noticed all the line was disappearing off the spool. So no buzzers for me in those days. And I wound down and struck it and played it back through 2 willow trees because it had gone quite a long way down the bank.
You just had a pike attacking the keep net there.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Sure it's not the otter. And I landed this carp, and it was absolutely massive.
Was it?
I didn't have any scales big enough. And a gentleman walked round the lake, and I said, "Excuse me, mister, can you help me?" Well, that mister was Ronnie Buss.
Was it? Oh,
and Ron and I have been friends from that day.
Ah.
And the fish actually weighed 18 pound 14 ounces.
Which back in the day.
Which was the biggest fish in Sanderson's.
Yeah, that was a monster back then.
And yeah, that was my start. I carp fished for many, many years all over the southeast.
I was only about 2 or 3 years old at that point, but I've read enough about the early days of carp fishing to know that a near 20 was a proper fish back then.
Yeah, well, my nickname for many years was 1814.
Was it?
But from there, I fished around the southeast, many of the lakes, and I don't know, probably 25, 30 years ago, I fell out of love with carp fishing.
Yeah, that's it's something you do hear about more and more now, whether it's big carp specimen style fishing or, you know, commercials where the main quarry are usually carp. And I've had a few comments on the channel from people saying, you know, they've I don't know, fallen out of love with the fishing a bit or got a bit disillusioned with it. Is that what happened to you?
Well, I was, you know, I was working. I'd inherited a young family. I had a couple of kids. I had a mortgage, which at the time was something I never ever thought I'd have in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I was getting to the lake on a Friday afternoon stroke evening and having to go in whichever swim was left.
Yeah.
You know, this was a particular lake in Kent, and, you know, I wasn't fishing against the carp. I was fishing against everybody else. So I changed my tactics and I started fishing that lake for bream and tench, and it all sort of developed from there. I mean, there's a gentleman who now lives abroad, I know where it is, but I won't say, called Ian Welsh, who was then the boss of RMC Angling.
Yeah.
He got me into barbel fishing. Well, that was that.
It does usually take someone, doesn't it?
The rest is history,
yeah.
You know, fishing up at, not Kingswear, Fisher's Green, then on the Kennet, and then onto the Thames.
Oh, that was a better fishing he's pulled out.
Via places like the Trent and, you know, where you fished the other week. I'd made an appearance up there as one of the locals.
The chalk streams.
And I fished the chalk streams for the barb. Well, not for the barbel, but I've caught barbel out of them.
Oh, you're talking about Collingham, are you? Yes.
Oh, I was talking about Collingham, yes.
Yes, yeah. My red letter day.
Oh, yeah, well, it was a fantastic day sport, that was.
I've got to say, it's a reoccurring theme that, you know, local tackle shops and other fishery owners, whenever I mention your name, it's like, oh, Nelly, how's he doing? And that's, I presume that's because you worked with, was it Gardner for
I started off in the trade with Gardner tackle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 15, 16, 17 years in the trade. And yeah, you do meet a lot of people. You make a lot of good friends, you know, and I was lucky. I think with my sort of personality, I'll get on with most people, and yeah.
And then you've also bailiffed quite a lot of your life, haven't you, from what you've told me?
Yeah, I've done a bit of bailiffing here, there and everywhere.
Run a commercial fishery.
Yeah, we worked down at Willow Park and basically ran that for a while when the owner's family were having problems. It was myself and my now girlfriend that ran it. So yeah, I've once seen, never forgotten, I think is the best way to describe me.
And barbel and chub really have become, well, what you're known for, but also your passion, haven't they? I know you're happy catching any fish, but
yeah. I mean, I've been very lucky. I caught some very, very big barbel and some very big chub, and the enjoyment of fishing for them's never gone away.
Moving water.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we've spoken before about it. My holy grail is an 8-pound chub off of this river.
Yeah.
And they're here, and I've come close, but I will keep coming back until I manage to catch myself one. That won't stop me coming back, but that will be mission complete. I think I've gone as big as I can go with the barbel.
What's your best barbel then? Because I know that you had one knocking on 17 not long ago in this very stretch. And when I was telling you what I thought of that over text, you said, "Well, I'm not being big-headed, but it's not in my top 5."
It was actually 16.10, but
16,
yeah, my PB
over
is
16 and a half then, yeah.
Yeah, 16.10. My PB is 17.15.
Oh, fraction under 18.
Yeah.
From the Thames, presumably.
Yep, from the Thames. I've had a 17.14 from the Thames, a 17.4 from the Thames, and a 17 from the Kennet.
Oh, monster fish.
Right place, right time.
Yeah. Well, you do put a lot of hours in, don't you? You like your night fishing, and that's...
I always have done. You know, I had a very understanding wife until 7 years ago. Got an understanding girlfriend now, and it keeps me sane, I suppose. You know, I have had quite bad problems with mental health and depression.
Yeah.
But the fishing, any sort of fishing, hasn't got to be down here for 2 days, or, you know, I'm quite happy sitting and fishing a match for 5 hours.
That's what I love about you is, well, from a fishing point of view, I mean, is you have got this big fish talent and experience, and you've put the hours in, and you've caught some absolutely magical fish that, you know, I couldn't really hope to catch the way I fish, but I've got to say you've given me a good taste for catching better fish, sitting it out for the big ones to show up. But you've also been quite clear all along the way that you don't mind catching anything, really.
I think if you're a true fisherman, that's the way you are.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
the way I feel.
It's I'll be just as happy catching 3-ounce roach on a 5-metre whip.
Yeah,
you know, it's fishing
if that's what you're wanting to do on the day. And
exactly, yeah. Perhaps I should have brought a whip down here today. But
definitely wanted the moving bait for sure.
I've met some very, very good people fishing, and I had some very, very good mentors when I was younger.
Yeah.
When you think of the likes of Ronnie Buss, Andy Little, that really did help me and kept me straight. Bob Merritt was another one, God bless his soul, who were all very, very grounded in what they were doing, and they had 10 minutes to help a mad keen 15-year-old,
That's when you need your help, isn't it? When you
and I like to think I've been the same, that I try and help everybody.
You do. You've been a massive help to me. I've got to say, I was talking to the folks at home earlier and saying that I really respect selfless anglers like you who know where the big fish are, and you've put the hours in to work that out, or you've certainly worked out likelihoods of things. And not that I'm asking you for those specific spots, but you don't mind sharing tackle tactics, bait tips, conditions. You want other people to catch fish.
Well, we're all here for the same reason, that is to try and catch fish.
I'm you know, at the moment.
Not as badly as I failed today, I might add, but you know, I had a lot of years where I used to take people on guided trips.
Yeah.
And
before guiding and YouTube guides.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I think I was one of the first group in the country to get the Sport England level 2 coaching certificate. Right.
So you were
but to see somebody catch their first barbel, if you take them out, and a few times I've taken people out, especially on the Kennet, and their first barbel was a double. It was like, it's
spoiled.
Yeah, spoiled, but the enjoyment for me was just immense, you know. No, my love is the Thames. This particular stretch, yes, is top of the list, but there's other great areas that you can go and catch fish where you don't have to join a club even.
I was talking about Mucker and Mucker's channel earlier.
Oh yeah,
another angler who's happy to give up some of his hard-won experience, letting people know. And you know, there will be few people that think, oh, he's going to attract hordes of anglers to their spots, but I've fished some of the places he's recommended, and there's no one else there. It's not ruining. It's not ruining anywhere when you're talking about a river as big as the Thames.
Yeah, that's right. You know.
Oh, I keep missing some lights.
A good bloke would have hit that, you know. But
they're getting a bit finicky late on in the day.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed your first trip to this particular
I've
stretch.
Filled my boots.
We will come back and do some chub fishing, which will mean leaving this bloody oil rig you've got built here at home and being a lot more mobile, especially now I can get about better than I have been able to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been itching to fish over to that tree today, but considering we were in a match, I thought I'd better try and catch some roach. And I dug myself a grave with this suggestion, didn't I? North v South, specimen against match angler. And the match anglers wiped the floor with me today. Fair play to you. But
certainly in terms of number of fish, but I know the size of some of the specimens you've had out of here.
Oh, it only counts on the day though. You're only as good as your last fish.
True. From what you've told me, there's no secret recipe baits or...
No. I mean, there's an old saying, keep it simple, stupid. Yes. You've got to put a reasonable bait that the fish find acceptable in the right place, and they'll take it.
Like sweet corn at the end of this trot.
It appears so.
That's another lovely Thames roach.
The fantastic quality, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, it's a shame we haven't actually got amongst the better fish today, but always next time.
There is. The Thames is alive and kicking with roach, some absolute crackers in there as well. You reckon maybe double figures, £10?
Maybe double figures, mate. I mean, I might have got double figures of fish. This is the difference between a good match angler and an idiot who thought he could compete and who's been giving it the big un for the last, 6 weeks about us doing this.
There has been some build-up. I
know. And
show them some of your fish, because I don't think they're able to see them in there. Look.
Well, they'll have to look hard, won't they? But, you know, they're nice roach.
Yeah, they're all lovely fish, aren't they?
But I tried on the pellet today and a feeder, whereas that's the difference. John's been on the float all day, fed heavily with hempen casters.
Pull them in.
And it's just an awesome, an awesome catch. I mean, this.
Thanks, buddy.
This is a beauty.
It is, isn't it?
You know, and there are fish twice that size down here. We haven't got anywhere near them today, but yeah, and a little silver bream I see there as well.
Yeah.
But what a day's fishing. Well done, mate.
Let's get them back.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing me, Neil.
No,
Cheers.
you're more than welcome. We'll say we've got you a ticket now, so we can do this again. And well, I'll try a bit better. This is embarrassing, guys. It really is embarrassing, but awesome day's fun.
Well, Neil's making his way back to the van with the Zimmer frame, and I'll need to borrow it again soon, just as soon as it becomes available. What a brilliant end to a day on the bank with a mate. Took it in good humour, but I think he'll be giving some thought to just how good us northern anglers are. But he knows how to catch his big fish, as you've seen from some of the photos I've shared, and it's always a pleasure spending some time on the bank with him. I hope you've enjoyed watching our antics too, and if you're new to this channel, please do join the club, hit that subscribe button, and if you're one of the faithful followers, massive thank you as always. Leave a comment, let us know what you thought, and hopefully you might even watch another video after this. But otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you again soon on the bank.